Some people believe Imo is a lunarian, others think he is the moon god. Most people just assume he is one of the founding celestial dragons who received the perennial youth operation. This is all wrong. He is a giant from Elbaf. Yes, even though he is of human size. Imo just obliterated an island, probably by using the ancient weapon Uranus. The attack looked a lot like one of Enel's. Even before this chapter came out, many people argued that the Skypiea arc is a miniature version of the whole One Piece story, but they never think it through, because if you did, you came to the conclusion that Imo is not a celestial dragon, but rather an Elbafian. Here's a brief summary of the history of Skypiea. The Shandia, a tribe from the Blue Sea, got sent to Skypiea via the Knock-Up Stream. The Skypieans fought them and drove them off their lands. Later, Enel arrived, defeated the Skypiean god and took his place. If the history of the Blue Sea is anything like that, then it is something like this. The ancient kingdom, ruled by the D-Clan, got defeated by the Celestial Dragons. The Celestial Dragons took over their land. They established the world government there. At some point, Imo came and subjugated them. People tend to assume that the Lunarians are the Blue Sea counterpart to the Shandia, because they resided on the Red Line in the past but got pushed out. In my view, the D-Clan fits better. The Shandia were still waging war against the Skypieans, even after Enel came to power. The D-Clan is not unified, but the one leading the fight against the world government is AD. Monkey D. Dragon is in a similar position as Viper, who led the fight against the Skypieans. The two men even have similar tattoos. Viper also fought directly against Enel, together with Luffy, Zoro, Robin and Gen Fall, and even managed to kill him, but Enel was able to revive himself. Dragon will probably also fight against Imo, together with his son. Dragon and Viper also both have a right-hand man who came across the absolute ruler. Enel was first encountered by Shandian warrior Kamakiri, who then got struck down before he could tell his comrades. Imo was first encountered by Sabo, who tried to tell Dragon what he had seen, but got blasted. So Enel wasn't the one who originally defeated the Shandia, that were the Skypieans. He just took over their political structure. The Shandia lost their home 400 years ago, but Enel appeared less than 10 years before the story takes place. Imo will be the same. He is no celestial dragon. He didn't destroy the ancient kingdom. He wasn't involved in the Void Century. So ironically, the celestial dragons are being oppressed right now too. Enel just arrived at Skypiea and defeated the Skypiean god Gen Fall. Is there a Blue Sea Gen Fall? One of the 5 elders looks like him. Could this be on purpose? Was he the former number 1 before Imo took over Pangaea Castle? Or was the empty throne actually empty before Imo showed up? Enel could dominate the Skypieans so easily because he found the Thunder Fruit on his homeland. Imo probably found Uranus where he is from. Enel came from Burka, which was presumably named after the real-life Burka, a Viking town. There's one island that is Viking-themed, Elbaf. So following this analogy, Imo is from Elbaf, where he probably found not a devil fruit but the weapon that he just used to wipe out an island. Perhaps he subjugated the celestial dragons by flying Uranus above Marijoa and threatening to destroy it. Or he has additional powers. He should have more abilities, so he can give Luffy a tough fight later. Finally, to the elephant in the room. Imo is clearly not physically huge. We saw him holding bounty posters. His hands were of normal size. We saw him standing before the giant straw hat, which would have been way too big for his head. We also saw him sitting on the empty throne, which is a throne for normally sized humans. If I recognize all that, then how can I claim that he's a giant from Elbaf? In Norse mythology, they are the so-called Jötnar. Their name is often translated with giant, which is misleading because many of them are not especially tall. Therefore, some scholars just used the Norse word. Imo is named after the Jötunn Im, but that isn't all. Elbaf might be ruled by Prince Loki. The realm of the Jötnar, Jötunheim, is ruled by Utgard Loki. Imo doesn't leave Pangaea Castle and is mostly seen alone in the same room. The Jötnar are said to live isolated on the periphery, in the mountains for example. Imo rules from Marijoa, which is on top of the Red Line. The location of the highest mountains in Norway is called Jötunheimen, named after the Jötnar realm. So Imo is based on a Jötunn, but I doubt that Oda will introduce a second race to Elbaf. Perhaps he just reveals that very rarely giant parents birth normal-sized children. Average-sized human parents birth Big Mom, who is not a giant but still very tall. The opposite could also happen. Perhaps many giants have some normal humans somewhere in their family tree, which would make it possible. Maybe Imo has a backstory where he is mistreated for his size. He might even be Uranus himself, and part of the royal family of Elbaf. And in verse Shirahoshi, Poseidon is way bigger than her siblings, or all the other mermaids we have seen so far. She is also anxious and fearful. Imo could be the opposite, way smaller than his siblings or any other person from Elbaf, and not as peaceful as Shirahoshi. He could have decided to use his inherited powers to take over the world. I admit that there are still some open questions. How many years ago did he take power? Was he alone or did he bring other Elbafians with him? What is his relation to Elbaf currently? Enel destroyed Berka, but Elbaf is still there. Is something preventing him from destroying his birthplace? Perhaps the Adam's Tree.